All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Monday, November 23rd, 2015, Thanksgiving week, special edition of Admissions Live. I'm your host, Chris Dorso, and today we are talking with Dr. Jeffrey Gates. Jeff is the Vice President for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management at Utica College in upstate New York. A little housekeeping first. Admissions Live is, of course, part of the Higher Ed Live network. We offer viewers direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Live webcasts allow viewers to share knowledge and participate in discussions around the most important issues in the industry. All of our episodes of Admissions Live are, of course, free and accessible in the video archives at Higher Ed Live and on iTunes in podcast format as well. Today's show is made possible by Chegg Enrollment Services. Chegg connects the nearly 80% of college-bound students researching schools across the web with the colleges and universities who are trying to reach them. Using an online platform that includes some of the most popular college search sites online, Chegg can help you save over 90% on the cost of traditional methods for generating your inquiry pool. So you can email outreach@chegg.com to schedule a free consultation. And Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a marketing communications firm that works with educational institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and more. Everything starts with your brand, and if you cannot articulate who you are, every communication is a wasted opportunity. So please join senior strategist Joel Pattison on M. Stoner's next free webinar to get a jump start on your 2016 brand strategy. And we are tweeting out a link using Higher Ed Live hashtag where you can learn more and register. Okay, so Admissions Live. Affordability is, of course, a big hot button issue in the enrollment world these days. Students, counselors, families, parents, more concerned every year about the ever rising cost of higher education and the enormous student debt burden that currently sits on millions of students across the country. And one small college in upstate New York a couple of months ago made quite a splash in the enrollment world by actually cutting tuition. Everybody always raises tuition every year. They decided to cut tuition by nearly 42%. They cut it from their current tuition of almost $34,000 to $19,000 and change. And that college is Utica College. And I am currently joined by their VP for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management, Dr. Jeff Gates. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris, for having me.
Cool. So for those of you who are watching along, do please feel free to follow along on the back end. If you've got questions about anything along the way, use that Higher Ed Live hashtag, and we will get your questions in as we go. So, Jeff, and we're going to send out a link to the story from one of the Utica papers about the big tuition cut this fall. But tell us a little bit about Utica College, the history of the school, just sort of the general overview of your campus and how it's set up.
Sure. Well, we were founded in 1946 for really returning GIs coming back from the war in the Mohawk Valley. Syracuse University founded Utica College and also Binghamton University in 1946. And over time, we have become our own institution. And I think what a lot of people think of Utica, they know us for physical therapy, occupational therapy, nursing, criminal justice, cybersecurity, construction management are some of our larger hallmark programs, but we were founded as a traditional liberal arts institution. And over time, we have grown in terms of our majors to now having 16 of the top 20 majors that students and families are looking for today, and that are career focused. So we really blend the liberal arts experience with all the skills that are so important for all of us to hone in the liberal arts and be prepared as we go out into the workforce or to the law school or med school, whatever that opportunity is for students. But really we are strong in the liberal arts, focused on career ready programs and majors and careers.
All right. So what's the tuition history there? As I said, everybody always raises tuition every year. And so I'm assuming you've had some sort of increases over the years. It's not you're not unusual in that respect.
No, not at all. In fact, I looked at just our fact book page. And so in 2000, tuition, room, board, and fees was $23,764. In 2005, it had increased to $31,396. 2010 to $39,910, and then our current cost with room and board is $46,400. And so, yeah, we've doubled almost, we have doubled. So
Yeah.
23 to 46 since 2000 in terms of the cost.
And so now you decided to bring that all the way back down. So
We did.
where did this idea start?
Well, there's a lot of competition in all across the country, and you hear many stories of colleges that are struggling and colleges with high discount rates, and ours was getting to be high. The changing demographics that we're all faced with in terms of recruitment, really, we started looking at that. I joined Utica about 2.5 years ago, and Chris, you and I worked together before that for many, many years, but on the public side. So in the public side, we talk about costs and affordability, but on the private side, it's a whole different conversation. And for me, coming to Utica, we offer a wonderful product here. The faculty are great. Our students are wonderful. The experience that a student gets here is truly great. And I said when I came here, I would stand in front of any audience and shout at the rooftops about the experience here. But what was hard was talking about the debt and the costs for the education. And many of our students are looking for a small private school that gives them individual personal attention. So I do believe that there's a cost for that. That's a hallmark. That's something that's differentiating us from our other public competitors within the SUNY system and other outside public systems. But at the same time, we said, what could we do differently to make the cost of a Utica education a little bit more transparent and a little more closer to reality? Because our discount rates, have gone up as just like our tuition has gone up, but our discount rates have gone up over time. So the old model of high costs, high tuition, and high discount, I think that's the model that is starting to crumble all across the country.
Now let's talk about discount rates, because I think maybe the folks on the ground may not know precisely how that works, and not that this is more of a an industry kind of a show, and we're not talking to parents in this kind of a scenario. But so from how does the discount program work from a layman's perspective? How do we see that to the public?
Sure. Yeah. Well, obviously, so you charge $40,000 for something, but the net price, could be $20,000. And so, what are you going to do with that $20,000 gap? Now, some of it's financial aid, a lot of it's grants, and then merit scholarships or academic scholarships. For Division III anyway, schools, that's where that fits in. D2 and D1 schools have athletic scholarships that they can also put in to fill in that gap. And so, what we found through, this was a 2-year research project for us. I mean, we didn't just decide this on September 1st and say, hey, 2 weeks later,
I've got an idea, right?
We have an idea, let's just do it. A lot of research went into this. I mean, we started having conversations about just what does our market look like in, late September of 2013. When I came, and we started looking at market research, we started looking at where we had been successful in terms of recruitment and where we felt that we had opportunities. So we had discussions starting way back then just about recruitment and strategy in general. And then we started looking at further cost, debt, affordability, and all of that. And it wasn't until probably 6 to 8 months into that research that we even started talking about a tuition reset. And really, we started that conversation, and we called, 2 colleges who I think have probably done it the best. And that's Converse College in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and Concordia University in St. Paul in Minnesota. And so we visited, we went to both campuses. We had lots of conversations with them. We engaged Noel Levitz to do some additional perception studies for us, and where families thought that intersection would be of where they thought that it was, value in terms of cost and affordability. And through all of that, what we've really learned, Chris, is that we turned off at least 40 to 50% of our families by sticker price alone.
Wow.
They look at that, $33,946 for tuition and say, I can't even consider that. Especially first generation families don't understand the discount.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like it's a con because you do like that's on your boards. It's in your view book is the tuition cost, and you of course you're going to look at that because that's what it is. That's what you're publicizing for the price of higher ed, the cost of your.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so now with our tuition and fees being less than 20,000, think of the first generation or the needy family. So, we're at 20,000 and then you take off, close to $11,000 for, for Pell and for the grant for the federal monies in your loans. And then your gap is now $10,000. Some of that could be made up with an academic scholarship. Others could be made up with money that students have saved. Versus before, that gap was $25,000 almost. So we've really taken that gap down dramatically over time. So if a student coming in, for the fall of 16, if they live on campus, are going to save about $9,000 over the course of the 4 years here, based on net tuition.
That's a significant amount of money.
It is.
So all of a sudden you're competing financially with SUNY. All right, look at the time. Oh, we got to cancel. Oh, no more. Show's over.
Well, and Chris, in all honesty, it's true. And
yes, that's totally legit. I can understand that.
Yeah, for the out-of-state international population, it will be as cost-effective to come to a small private school in central New York as it would be to come to a public institution in state or out of state. So yes, that is true. And Chris and I are joking about that because we were together for a very long time in the SUNY system before I came to the private side. So
how did obviously you said there's a lot of research that goes into this, but how do you get buy-in from faculty? So to you bring this idea to Faculty Senate and you say, hey, guess what? We're cutting tuition, and how that may impact their world in terms of facilities, in terms of research support, in terms of class sizes, in terms of whatever. How do you get faculty buy-in?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think when you talk to schools that have done this, while we worked on this for over 2 years, there was a group of 6 to 8 of us who worked on this. And so, and the reason for that is can you imagine, as an enrollment manager, in August 1st, you give out this announcement that effective the following fall, you're going to reset your tuition from, $34,000 to under $20,000, and your entire freshman class decides to wait a year. Disaster, right? So therefore, we were really close to the vest. And in fact, the board approved the final dollar amount in May of this year. And so the board knew, and then we brought in small groups, but really not until August. And we had everyone sign a confidentiality agreement and talked, we gave some of the same scenario I just gave to you. Right. Could you imagine if this were to happen? But Chris, I think why they bought in and why everyone is so excited about this on campus is because we did our research, we did our homework, we spent a lot of time, we talked to people who did it well and people who also didn't do it well. And so we learned from everyone, and we were very transparent at Faculty Senate in those meetings with our faculty union, with the Student Senate. So we brought in some of those key players early on and asked for their confidence until we announced to the entire campus community the morning. So at 8:30 on September 15th, we had our first meeting here on campus with faculty and staff, and then our public announcement was, around 11 o'clock. So we got buy-in, I think, really from doing our homework, sharing the story with them, and showing that not only are we going to reset tuition, but we're resetting financial aid, we're resetting our merit awards, and we're resetting the way the college does business, and we're going to be a leader at the national level on how you could do that and do that well. So were they nervous a little bit? Absolutely.
Yeah, I would think, yeah.
And this also came to them at a time where, we were 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks into classes with our largest freshman class ever. We started out with a goal of 515, and we ended up enrolling 645 freshmen.
Whoa.
So I talked with, Jason Dedman, who's the chair of our English department, with, hey, you need 11 more sections. Yeah. for this incoming class. And so space is a concern. for us. We're addressing that. We have students in triples this year, so we're looking at a future plan for residence hall capacity. We are moving our business school to downtown Utica for the fall of 16, so that will help in some classroom space and faculty staff space here on campus. So a lot going on.
That's interesting. So now you're going to raise tuition to build new housing. Okay, got it. Check. Okay.
No.
So we're sort of wrapping up a season on the road now. So you're out there and you're talking with parents and students on the road. How has the reception been from talking to folks? Like we mentioned 10 minutes ago, folks would walk up and see that $30,000 as they're walking around the college fair, and it turns them off. How has reception been from sort of anecdotally?
Well, it's not that you can at a national college fair reel people in, right? But
yeah, exactly.
But you try to say, hey, how are you? And how about that smile? But you don't have to do any of that. People are coming up and having the conversation. They've clearly have heard of Utica now, in whether it's social media or we had 360 million hits on social media the week of the reset and all the announcements, and it's continued to have lasting effects on that. The CACNY group in New York City, when Erica Padilla, who's our director of New York City engagement, walked into that meeting, they all stood and gave her a standing ovation.
Wow,
she didn't say anything. She just walked into the room, and so we've gotten a lot of positive response. And I've had a lot of conversations with school counseling groups all across the state. And then, of course, the national conference sessions will be coming up. We've been asked to, how did you do this? What was your research that you did, and that sort of thing. And we're willing to do that because we do think that, this is right for many schools. It's not right for all. And I would be very honest with a school who called and said, would you do this, if you didn't have increased enrollments and 15 years of year-over-year enrollment growth and an online program. There's an investment. We're investing $2 million this year out of our own cash flow to ensure that all of our returning students are saving at least $1,000. So that means we're not going to put on a new roof. We're not going to do another sidewalk. We're not going to, add a parking lot or, do something that we normally would have done in deferred maintenance. We've made the commitment to all students to address college affordability and debt for our current students and also for those into the future. So
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's true. Your current folks who are still. So does this tuition cut impact current students, or is it just going forward?
No, it does impact current students.
Okay. Cool.
So on the 15th, we repackaged every single student and gave them their award for next year.
Jeff Gates just walking around campus, handing out $100 bills, making it rain.
Yeah.
So anecdotally, it's been good. How has it impacted your numbers? Have your inquiry numbers, your application numbers? How have things looked in the early going?
Everything is up dramatically. So which is great. We knew that we would have an increase in interest early on, but to see that it's being sustained has been great. Early decision, early action were both beyond our expectations in terms of application volume, and so is our regular admission at this point. So we have actually slowed back our decisioning a little bit. So just basically to see how that goes. But the counselors are reviewing apps today and making decisions. So it's definitely been an exciting time. But the question is how long and how much will our applications increase, because we're looking for a class of 625 next year, which is smaller than this year, right?
Right. I would think you're going to have to offset that increase in some way, right?
Right. Yeah.
So how does this impact then, talking about increased application numbers and all that, I'm assuming selectivity is going to have to go up to a certain degree, especially considering a smaller, potentially a smaller incoming class. How does this impact things on like an access perspective or, underprivileged students, all those kinds of things? How do you shape a class with this sort of increased demand in a way that benefits the college and the students involved?
Absolutely, yeah. We're not going to change anything in terms of our opportunity programs. those numbers are held harmless, and those students are actually going to make out even better, because we didn't meet full need for our opportunity programs, but we are going to be able to come very close to closing that gap for those students under the tuition reset, which is great. So in terms of, in the college, I should have said in the beginning is that, we were founded as a college of opportunity. So we would give a student a second chance. And so we are not, the board has said, you can do this. And I think this is the right thing to do for our students and our families, because we are addressing college affordability and debt, and it will cost less, once a student leaves here. But we have to make sure that we still have spaces for students, not only in our opportunity programs, but for students who may need, who show promise, but in our test optional world, who may need some additional support, and let them prove themselves once they get here. We will not change that. And part of, resetting our classes is, our classes used to be about, our largest before this year was 571. And, we went down to 473 a couple of years ago. And so part of resetting to 625 is to still give that opportunity, and also to have spaces for additional students coming in. So we see our out-of-state population, increase, especially in our most competitive programs, PT, OT, nursing, construction management, and of course, cyber is through the roof.
Right. Now, yeah, I thought that was something else that I was thinking about as you were doing the intro, talking about those kinds of programs. Those are not inexpensive programs to run, too. So that certainly has got to be a factor in the financial picture. But at the same time, they're also potentially high-paying jobs too. So it's sort of a best of all worlds kind of a scenario where students can come in and potentially save a lot of money on the front end, and that will really benefit them in very specific ways down the road.
Absolutely. It's exciting.
So we talk about other places and liberal arts colleges, and it's a tough time right now for small private liberal arts colleges. They're probably the biggest targets. Look at the Sweetbriars and the schools that have struggled. And do you think do you see Utica as a trendsetter? Like, do you think that we'll see other colleges start to at least attempt to go down this road?
I think so. In terms of, Rosemont, the following day after ours. Now, clearly they've been planning that. They didn't do it on the heels of our announcement. And I actually, it's been very busy since the reset announcement, but I finally connected via phone for 10 minutes with their vice president at Rosemont and said, I'd love to share stories and boardroom stories someday, but both of us have not yet had that opportunity to connect other than the first 10 minutes. But, other schools have reached out to us to inquire and say, how did you do this? Why did you do it? And that sort of thing. Not saying that they're considering it, but there's definite interest. I think there's probably more interest than we realize, because I don't think anyone wants to pick up the phone and, I'm not going to say any college's name, and I will share that and keep that confidentiality here. But I think, for schools who can do it, it's the right thing to do. I mean, we say that on our video. It's like, we didn't have to do this. Some people have called me and said, you're absolutely crazy. Why are you doing this? You had your record enrollment for 15 years, your record freshman class, quality was up by 50 points. What are you doing? And part of it was, this was all in play before that class came in, right? I mean, we could have scrapped this, absolutely, but it's simply the right thing to do for our students. We've listened, we hear the hardship, you hear hardships too, we all do. And so if we have the ability and the means to help families now and into the future, I think we should do that. That's why we're in this business, is to see students succeed and to come out with the least amount of debt that they possibly can.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really valid point. I think, that really is the point of what we're trying to do here in higher ed. It's easy to lose that in the scope of all the other things that we do with, endowments and, the capital campaigns like we were talking about, and on the research end and all those kinds of things. It comes down to the student experience and making sure that students are able to get from where they are to, to better themselves, to be in a better situation when they leave. And part of being in a better situation includes being in a better situation financially, not just from a sort of a knowledge-based perspective, although obviously that's important too, and life skills, but that having that financial stability, especially in 2015 and beyond, has really never been more important.
I agree.
So, as we come up on 1:30 here, I want to give you a chance to sort of your advice to higher ed folks who are thinking about going down this road, and we sort of touched on it. What's your recommendation for administrators, for enrollment folks who are frustrated at the question at the table? You walk up to when a parent walks up to the table and says, "Why is your tuition $58,000?" What's your advice to those folks?
Yeah, well, I mean, for those who are considering, I think first reach out. I always, reach out to schools that have done it well. Reach out to us if you want. I'm more than happy to talk with anyone. But you also have to validate, your own work. We have wonderful minds, here in our finance area. I think our enrollment area is very strong, obviously, as well as institutional research. But we did our own work and came up with our own models, but we had those vetted by a national consultant. I mean, there's a lot of risk here, and if one way or the other, it could be really good or it could be really bad. And so you have to understand what those risks are and make sure that you are in the position to mitigate those risks, should it go either way. There's a lot of environmental factors that we don't have control over. And so, what happens if the Dow drops, by, 20% or 30%, yikes, it's, then no one's going to school, right? I mean,
exactly.
We've been down that road before, but what happens in that case? I think it's also important to know your market. Do you truly know where you're recruiting students from and where those students are being successful and that sort of thing? And where is there areas of opportunity? People always say, oh, California and Texas and Florida are ripe with opportunity because there's so many people. Well, are they coming to Central New York? Are they coming to your neck of the woods? Right. Where are they going? Where are they willing to go? And what support do they need to get there?
Right.
So you reach out in terms of the marketing folks and validate what you think you already know. Because there was a lot that we thought we knew that we were pretty close, but there were some hot spots in some areas where we thought we could be doing better, or we thought we were doing better than we actually were when you looked into the details. And then, in terms of cost and affordability, I think it's okay for students and families to have loans, right? And to have some skin in the game. I think that's important.
Agreed.
I had skin in the game, for all 3 degrees of mine. And it pushed me a little bit to not only complete, but to do well academically. And I share that with families that, it's okay to have a little bit of a debt, but we want that debt to be perhaps a car payment instead of a mortgage payment. And so
right.
You need to understand what that's all about. And for middle school families who you see, it's save, and make sure you have a plan. So I think those are high level things, Chris, that I think, do your research. There's, I think now 30 or 31 schools that have done a tuition reset across the country. So do your research in the schools that do it well. I think another attribute of schools who do it well is that they do something for their current student population. We repackage, make sure they release saving at $1,000. Other schools have done nothing right for the returning population, and that may not create goodwill, amongst your student population. But so if you just have to think of all of those things as they go forward.
We'll have to have a follow-up show with on an advancement live show with your advancement folks to see how it's impacted, like alumni giving, for example, and all those kinds of things. That's a whole different show.
Yeah, no, it's good though. They're seeing obviously lots of positive impact. So
I would think that's the kind of thing where, I had such a great experience there. It's so great that you're doing this. I want to support this. I would think that's sort of a real natural thing to do for really engaged alumni.
and their alumni donation and their dollars now go further. So if you get
yes, also it's true. Yeah, that's a really good point. That much further to help in scholarship support and all those kinds of things. Yeah, good point. All right. Well, thanks as always to my guest, Jeff Gates, and thanks as always to our program sponsors, Chegg and M. Stoner. We are off for the holiday weekend, so enjoy your Thanksgiving. Hope you have lots of time with family and friends and whoever it may be. Admissions Live, I should say Higher Ed Live, rather, we'll be back on Tuesday, December 1st. With Heather Shea Gasser, Student Affairs Live. We will talk about Muslim students and how we can help Muslim students and students of all faith traditions, but particularly Muslim students, and it's has never been more timely than it is right now. And then I will be back on Monday, December 7th. And on Monday the 7th, we are throwing the doors wide open to you. And so we will send out a notification tomorrow and then next week where we're inviting you all to be guests on the show. And so this is your opportunity to talk about what's going on in your world. We'll talk about crazy stories from the road. We'll talk about, sort of get stuff off your chest. This is your chance to rant. And we will even have the opportunity for you to submit stuff if you don't want to be live on TV, on internet TV. So look for that in the next day or two, and hopefully we will have lots of great guests on Monday, December 7th. As always, check us out on iTunes. Check us out at higheredlive.com. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time on Admissions Live.